Most car parts imported into the U.S. will have a 25% tariff. The tax will likely impact all car makers, even Fords that are made in America have some foreign parts. And while consumers might not see prices go up right away, many experts warn that could change.
Trump could send shockwaves through Germany's most powerful industry. Imagine the luxury engines of BMW, the precision of Mercedes-Benz, and the legacy of Volkswagen. All brought to their knees not by innovation, not by competition, but by a 25% tax. This isn't fiction. This is real. German autos are bleeding into chaos. It's just begun. Welcome to the world where politics, power, and economics collide. This is the story of how the tariff shook an empire. Scene 1: the America First. Agenda: Donald Trump came into office with one goal: to protect American industries at any cost. His America First economic doctrine wasn't just about slogans, it was about rewriting the center global trade rules. And at the center of his target list, automobiles to Trump, the US was being played. Foreign automakers, especially from Europe, were dominating American showrooms, while U.S. cars faced impossible regulations overseas. Germany, with its luxury auto brands, became a symbol of this imbalance. So, Trump drew a line. He threatened, then moved forward with a sweeping 25% tariff on imported cars and car parts, a move that sent shockwaves across the Atlantic, scene to the auto giants in trouble. Germany's auto industry isn't just an economic contributor to the beating heart of the nation. Think about it. Over 800,000 Germans work in this sector. Car manufacturing makes up over 5% of the country's GDP and nearly 1/5 of its exports. Brands like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Porsche, and Volkswagen aren't just brands there. Cultural icons. In 2019, over 700,000 German cars were shipped to the United States. That's $30 billion worth of business. Now imagine every single one of those cars suddenly being hit with a 25% surcharge. That's tens of thousands of dollars added to the price of every vehicle. A base model BMW X5, for example, which normally cost $60,000 would now cost over $75,000. Who would buy that? Scene 3: the market reacts. The response was instantaneous. Brutal shares of German automakers tumbled. Panic hit the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Emergency meetings were called in Munich and Stuttgart. German CEOs weren't just worried about profits, they were worried about survival. The German government condemned the move. European officials began preparing countermeasures. There was talk of a full-blown trade war, but Trump was unmoved. He claimed the tariff was long overdue, that the US had been exploited for decades. Meanwhile, American consumers braced themselves for higher car prices and fewer choices. Scene for retaliation brews in Europe. Brussels wasn't going to sit quietly. European Union leaders began preparing retaliatory tariffs of their own, targeting American-made products like Harley-Davidson motorcycles, bourbon whiskey, and blue jeans. Companies like Levi's and Jack Daniels suddenly found themselves caught in the middle of a global fight. The global economy began to shudder. Automakers warned of cascading job losses. Economists predicted higher inflation, weaker demand, and a rise in protectionism worldwide. And all this, sparked by a single stroke of a pen in the White House. Scene 5: Germany counts the costs. Back in Germany, the auto industry began to feel the pain. BMW announced it would freeze hiring at its Spartanburg, South Carolina plant, one of its largest in the world. Daimler, the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, slashed its profit. Forecasts: Volkswagen hit pause on a billion-dollar expansion plan. Smaller German parts suppliers, many family-owned and dependent on U.S. contracts, began cutting jobs. Factories slowed production. Assembly lines halted. The mood turned grim. And all the while, pressure built on German car makers to adapt or fall behind. Scene 6: strategic reactions and reinvention. Faced with tariffs, German automakers didn't Just wait, they acted. Some began moving parts of their production to the United States to avoid the import tax. BMW and Mercedes looked at expanding existing plants in the southern US. Others explored building vehicles in Mexico or Canada, where trade agreements might offer some protection at the same time. Germany's biggest names began pivoting heavily toward electric vehicles and emerging markets. Volkswagen accelerated its EV roadmap, hoping to shift focus away from the US. BMW invested in autonomous driving tech. Mercedes doubled down on luxury innovation. The race wasn't just about avoiding tariffs. Anymore, it was about survival in a reshaping global auto market. Scene 7. The American consumer backlash. Ironically, American consumers were hit just as hard. German cars became significantly more expensive. Dealerships saw fewer imports. Financing costs rose as the resale value of foreign cars became unpredictable. And even American automakers weren't safe. Why? Because many American vehicles use German parts, high-end transmissions, advanced electronics, safety systems. Suddenly, the cost of those parts skyrocketed too. Thanks to the blanket tariff. Ford, GM, and others raised their voices, warning that the move would harm their global competitiveness. Scene 8. Who really won? So who came out on top? Did Trump's 25% tariff level the playing field? Or did it ignite a chain reaction that damaged allies and markets alike? Supporters of the move say it was bold leadership and overdue stand against unfair trade. They claim it forced German automakers to bring jobs to the US and gave American companies a chance to compete. Critics argue it was reckless, that it hurt consumers, fractured alliances, and did long-term damage to an already fragile global economy. The truth? It's complicated, but one thing is undeniable. Germany's auto industry took a hit it wasn't expecting. But this isn't just a story about cars. It's a story about identity for Germany. The automobile isn't just a product, it's national pride, it's innovation, it's engineering excellence passed down through generations. The Autobahn, the Nürburgring, the precision of a Porsche engine. These are not just tools of transport. They are cultural symbols. When Trump's tariff hit, it didn't just threaten German profits, it questioned Germany's global standing. It rattled a legacy built over a century, and Germany wasn't alone in feeling this pressure. Japan watched nervously. South Korea reevaluated their trade alignments. Even British automakers, Jaguar, Land Rover, Mini began exploring emergency strategies, fearing they'd be next. A global chill swept across the entire auto sector behind closed doors. CEOs began talking not just about tariffs but about de-risking, diversifying supply chains, moving production to Southeast Asia, building in places like Vietnam or India. To avoid unpredictable policy storms. In a way, Trump's 25% auto tariff accelerated what many saw coming: a reordering of global production lines, a movement away from Europe-centric exports to regional manufacturing hubs, the beginning of the post-globalization auto era. And for American workers, the irony was cruel. The jobs promised through America First, they didn't pour in. A few factories were expanded, yes, but many companies simply automated more. Robots don't pay taxes or complain about tariffs. The very disruption meant to protect jobs began making them obsolete faster. In fact, sustainability, once the top PR pitch, was replaced by cost-cutting survival mode in real terms. This wasn't just about economics anymore. It was about the new rules of global diplomacy. For decades, trade had been a silent agreement among powerful nations. We benefit together, we build together. Trump broke that silence. He turned trade into a weapon, a tool of pressure, a show of dominance, and whether you agree with it or not, he proved one thing: tariffs can hurt, especially when aimed at the right targets. So where do we go from here? The dust has settled somewhat. Biden's administration rolled back some of the harsher elements, but many core policies remain.